Today we are making a replica of a small section of a detail which is present inside the V&A. My name is Leonardo Bianchi, and I represent the third generation of a family who devoted her life to the world of craftsmanship, trying to realize artistic masterpieces in Scagliola, which is an artistic technique focused on an inlay, and this inlay is reproduced surfaces which can be marble, slate, or Scagliola itself. Everything started with my grandfather, Bianco Bianchi, in 1953 in Florence. Scagliola was a lost star. It had fallen into the oblivion in the second half of the 19th century, and my grandfather was the first to rebuild an atelier, starting once again doing Scagliola pieces. They all are born from a powder, humile, simple, even poor powder, which name is selenite. Working in the workshop, we can find my father, Alessandro, and his sister, Elisabetta, and many other people that behind the curtains for many, many years have helped us developing our history. Everything starts from here. My dad, Alessandro, is making a huge black impasto which will give birth to the slab of Scagliola, above which we have to inlay the design. Is making an impasto made of selenite powder, glues, and black pigments. Yes, to mix all together, it creates a solid impasto. After that, he cuts the slices. And sticks them all above the frame, which is done with wooden pieces. Right now, my aunt Elisabetta is copying the design above paper, which is a very important step because it gives us the chance to create a first relationship with the design and try to understand it, to feel it, and comprehend it. She's copying the design on paper with a pencil, and then she draws the lines stronger with a pen.
Sì, sì, certo.
Metti l'acqua giusto.
Sì.
We take the design, we put on the slab, and underneath the design we insert the copy paper, which is gonna transfer the design above the slab. Drawing the design can take a long time because, of course, the more precise you are, the more detailed will be the engraving step. Because if you make a wrong line, this wrong line will appear also when you will have to engrave and inlay it. Now we are using a compressed air cutter, which is useful in order to engrave the black slab. It's pretty difficult because your hands must be very precise, strict. This is one of the few parts of this artistic technique where you cannot fail. You cannot fail because if you make an error, you cannot come back. And this first inlay will give us the chance to inlay with hammer and chisel. Inlaying with hammer and chisel is one of the most cathartic parts of the work. It's a huge effort, but you have to be very precise as well. You have to choose a very accurate way, the chisels. The finest for the details, one bigger if you have to remove a great part. You need to be precise as well. It's very tiring at the end of the day because your shoulders hurt. I don't need to go to the gym right now because I go to the gym by inlaying with hammer and chisel. Personally, it gives me a lot of satisfaction, and it was one of the first steps of the work I fell in love with. Right now, my dad has to prepare the colors, which is a very fundamental part of the work because knowing how to mix the colors is very important and difficult because there are relationships among the water, the glues, the selenite powder, and if you add one component more than another, the colors change and maybe you could not reach the result you wanted. You start by mixing the glues, which was fish glue, natural pigments, and the selenite powder, which is Scagliola, of course. With a spatula, you have to insert this impasto and throw it inside the empty spaces we previously created with the engraves with hammer and chisel. We have to be pretty fast because sometimes the gypsum may harden. The glues give us time, so we don't rush. The next step is that in which we have to take care the excess, the surplus of the color we applied before. So with papers we have to remove this excess, polishing in order to make it as flat as the slab. I don't have to be so strong. I must maintain a balance. If I'm too strong, I may create an indent. If we have to smooth a huge tabletop, we have a sanding machine. But of course, this was something different. With burin, we focus on the inner details of the design, and it's kind of making some smaller inlays, 1 millimeter of depth, more or less. And these inlays will need other color impasto. A burin is a tool through which we create inner inlays, which can be 1 millimeter depth. Basically, they are useful to give three-dimensionality and shadows of color to the design. My grandfather used to say that using the burin is something you have to do senza pentimento, which is without repentance. That is, you have to do it knowing that if you do it bad, the result won't be possible to adjust. Meanwhile, if you do it in a good way, the work is gonna be fine. After created these last small engraves, them too have the necessity to be filled with color. So we are gonna do the same thing we did before. Creating an impasto, this time a little bit more dense, with the same colors or different colors. It depends on what we gotta do. In this case, we had to complete the other half of the cherry and some leaves. We use a spatula since the impasto is a little bit more dense, and we have to apply it above the design, above the slab, in order it gets stuck inside the empty space. You will have to polish and smooth them in order to make it as flat as the other parts of the design. The final part of the job. Once we are in front of the final object, it's time to use wax and lacquer to give brilliance to the colors and make them shining. What I like about Scagliola is working with poor material and turning something which at the beginning is quite ugly and turning it into something beautiful. This is our greatest satisfaction. I've been working in Scagliola for 8 years. It's not lifetime. I've not born knowing that in the future I would have been an artisan. Because I think that my parents gave me a great gift, which was the freedom of choice. The fact is that I choose to become this, and maybe I it happened when I fell in love with this